The FIA is falling apart. Toto stops pursuit of Verstappen for now, and Max cannot believe the advantage that McLaren has. Do consider subscribing to the channel. Now let's get into the latest F1 news. Aston Martin's team boss Mike Krack has expressed a clear message regarding their Formula One team's approach to upcoming challenges. He firmly believes that the squad cannot afford to simply sit back and relax while waiting for the arrival of Adrian Newey, the well-known and highly respected engineer in the motorsport world. Krack emphasizes that the team needs to be proactive rather than passive if they want to achieve significant progress in the competitive environment of Formula One. The Silverstone-based team has achieved a remarkable victory by securing Newey's expertise following his recent departure from the championship-winning Red Bull team. His reputation for designing fast and competitive cars has made him one of the most sought-after figures in motorsport. However, due to the terms outlined in his existing contract with Red Bull, Newey is unable to officially start his new role with Aston Martin until March of next year. This means that, for the time being, his contributions will be primarily focused on the car that Aston Martin will field in the 2026 season. Although the acquisition of Newey is seen as a significant boost for the future of Aston Martin, Krack stresses the importance of not allowing the team's excitement about what is to come cloud their judgment regarding the current state of affairs. He points out that the team is facing challenges on track, and that their immediate focus should be on turning around their current performance levels, rather than solely looking ahead to future developments. This season has seen Aston Martin slipping down the order in performance rankings, and Krack is adamant that they need to make meaningful improvements before Newey's official arrival. When asked about the challenge of balancing the anticipation for Newey's influence on the 2026 car with their present difficulties, Krack acknowledged that it is indeed a tough situation to navigate. He stated that it is difficult, but added that they should view the upcoming 2025 season as a chance to showcase their capabilities to Newey, which should serve as motivation for everyone involved in the team. When pressed about the potential risk of team members becoming complacent and merely waiting for Newey to make his mark, Krack assured that he is determined to prevent that from happening. He made it clear that if any signs of complacency arise, he would act swiftly to address the situation. He understands the challenges they face but believes in the importance of maintaining productivity and focus. Newey has already made a visit to the Aston Martin factory and has engaged in discussions with senior staff members. However, due to his current obligations to Red Bull, the extent of his input into the team's operations remains limited. Krack noted that the level of communication he and Newey can have prior to his official start date is a matter he cannot control. He mentioned that he would need to verify the details with the legal department to ensure everything is within the bounds of the contract. Being cautious about the legislation surrounding these matters is crucial for them. They do not want to find themselves embroiled in legal issues, as that would be counterproductive to their goals. Looking back at the previous season when Aston Martin was competitive and even battling for podium finishes, Krack made it clear that fighting for lower ranking points is simply not acceptable for the team. He stated that they are currently not where they aspire to be. Their clear goal has been to close the gap to the top 4 teams in the championship standings. At the start of the racing season, they believed they were around the 5th fastest team on the grid, with the objective of reducing that gap. Unfortunately, Krack pointed out that they have not been able to accomplish this goal, as other teams appear to have improved more significantly than Aston Martin has. Recognizing this reality is essential, and he insists that it is something they must understand fully and address in order to forge a path forward to better performance. Red Bull's advisor Helmut Marko has expressed deep concern regarding McLaren's apparent advantage in the Formula One scene lately, stating that it feels like we have entered a whole new world. This shift in competitiveness has also surprised Max Verstappen, the reigning world champion, who isn't quite sure how to respond to McLaren's recent performances. Recently, Lando Norris showcased an astonishing level of skill during the Singapore Grand Prix. He not only outqualified Verstappen by 0.2 of a second, securing pole position, but also dominated the race itself. Norris crossed the finish line with an impressive lead of 21 seconds over Verstappen, who has won the championship 3 times. At one point during the race, the distance between them stretched to an incredible 29 seconds, underlining Norris's unmatched performance. This remarkable outcome signifies the continuation of a challenging 8-race stretch for Red Bull and Verstappen, where they have struggled to reclaim their former glory. During this period, the team has only managed to secure 1 pole position and 3 podium finishes for Verstappen, whereas McLaren has celebrated a series of successes, including 4 pole positions, the same number of race victories, and a total of 11 top 3 finishes. Last Tuesday, Marco and Verstappen had an extensive conversation over the phone where they discussed their struggles. When asked in an interview with the sister publication of Autosport Formel1.de about what Verstappen had conveyed during their discussion, Marco stated that it was clear to both of them just how dominant Lando had been. He described Norris's performance on medium tires as alien, noting that he was managing to take 9/10 to 1 second per lap away from them. Marco further emphasized that even if Red Bull's car had been perfectly optimized, it would be hard to believe that Verstappen could have achieved those kinds of times on medium tires. Both of them are puzzled over how Norris managed such an extraordinary performance. Marco remarked that when Norris is pulling away by such a significant margin, it feels like they have entered completely uncharted territory. He also mentioned that during the second stint of the race, Charles Leclerc was nearly as fast as Norris, if not a bit quicker, which adds even more pressure on Red Bull. Marco concluded that for them, finishing in second place almost felt like a victory under the circumstances. The distinction in performance can be attributed to McLaren's strategy of maintaining continuity in their design. They have kept the same floor on their car since the Miami Grand Prix in May. On the other hand, Red Bull introduced some subtle updates to their car ahead of the races in Baku and Marina Bay. Marco commented on the upgraded floor by saying that while it was a good step forward, it still fell short of what was necessary to regain their competitive edge. He acknowledged the hard work that had gone into these updates, mentioning that it wasn't a complete overhaul of the floor, but included some new parts that provided fresh insights. However, he emphasized that the real test will come at the upcoming race in Austin, and he hinted at even more developments on the horizon. Marco noted that team principal Christian Horner had characterized the recent Monza race as the low point for Red Bull, especially after Verstappen finished in 6th place while being 38 seconds behind race winner Leclerc. Marco concurred that this situation served as more than just a wake-up call for the team. He recalled the race as being the worst one in quite some time, remembering previous instances where they had faltered badly in strategy, pit stops, and speed. Despite these challenges, Marco conveyed a sense of hopefulness, stating that they are now on the right track. He pointed out that the car needs to function over a wider range of conditions, meaning it should not be so sensitive that small adjustments or temperature changes could drastically affect performance. To truly compete, they require more speed and a broader bandwidth. Verstappen, in particular, needs a well-balanced car that allows him to explore every opportunity to attack, as merely finishing second is simply insufficient for a champion of his caliber. With Red Bull now trailing McLaren by 41 points in the Constructors' Championship and having amassed 119 fewer points over the last 6 races, partly due to Sergio Perez not finishing in the top 5 since the Miami event. Marco reluctantly admitted that this title race might effectively be over given their current performance levels. Nevertheless, he remains optimistic. If Verstappen can start winning races again, and if Sergio Perez can secure 3rd or 4th finishes, the situation could change dramatically. However, he emphasized that the primary focus is on pursuing the driver's title for now. Marco believes that this goal can only be met if Max wins at least 2 more races, which would also improve their standing in the Constructors' Championship. The FIA, which stands for the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile, has recently seen the departure of 2 important figures within its organization. Luke Skipper, who served as the Director of Communications, and Jacob Bangsgaard, who held the position of Secretary General of Mobility, have both decided to resign from their roles. Reports indicate that both Skipper and Bangsgaard chose to leave the FIA in order to explore other interests and opportunities. However, it is worth noting that their resignations come at a critical time when the leadership style of FIFA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem has once again come under scrutiny and debate. This scrutiny includes a series of his recent statements and actions, which have sparked considerable discussion within the motorsport community. For instance, ahead of the Singapore Grand Prix, Ben Sulayem stirred up controversy when he publicly urged drivers to cut back on their swearing. This statement led to Max Verstappen receiving a sanction after he cursed during a press conference, which in turn resulted in protests from the Dutch driver, highlighting the tensions between the FIA and key figures in the sport. In addition to this, Ben Sulayem has openly criticized the British media, suggesting that he feels he has been convicted due to certain media coverage that he deems unfavorable or unfair. Despite all the buzz around Ben Sulayem's leadership approach, there has been no formal statement from the FIA regarding the specific reasons for the resignations of Skipper and Bangsgaard, even though both individuals were quite prominent in their respective roles. Luke Skipper made a significant impact upon joining the FIA in 2022. He was notably the first person to hold the title of Director of Communications and Public Affairs within the organization. His background includes extensive experience in the field of communications and public relations, having previously served as the Director of Public Affairs for Weber Shandwick, a well-respected communication firm where he worked closely with a diverse range of international clients. In addition to this, Skipper has an impressive political background, having worked as the Chief of Staff for the Scottish National Party at the UK Parliament. On the other hand, Jacob Bangsgaard was appointed as the FIA's Secretary-General for Automobile Mobility and Tourism in 2023. His reputation in the field of mobility is well established, as he previously founded and led European Policy Research, which has been operational since 1997. Before taking on his recent role at the FIA, Bangsgaard served as the Director General of FIA Region 1 and had also worked in London at the FIA Foundation as the Director of International Relations, further underscoring his extensive experience and influence in the area of automobile mobility. The resignations of Skipper and Bangsgaard are part of a broader trend, as the FIA has experienced a number of significant departures over the last year. Just last winter, it became public knowledge that Sporting Director Steve Nielsen and Single-Seater Technical Director Tim Goss both stepped down from their respective positions within the organization. Given these ongoing changes, it will be interesting to see how the FIA manages its future leadership and communication strategies in light of these recent departures. Red Bull racing advisor Helmut Marko has expressed that the team will primarily focus on developing its younger drivers for the future instead of pursuing well-established stars in Formula One. This strategic shift indicates a strong belief in the potential of their junior drivers and a commitment to nurturing talent from within their ranks. Currently, Red Bull is on the lookout for the best possible candidate to partner with their star driver Max Verstappen in upcoming seasons. The team is evaluating the situation with Sergio Perez, who is under contract for the next year. However, Perez has been struggling to keep pace with Verstappen, which has raised concerns about his ability to contribute effectively to the team's success. In the last 12 Grand Prix races, Perez has only managed to score 41 points, which is significantly lower than Verstappen's impressive total of 195 points, meaning Perez's performance accounts for only about 21% of what Verstappen has achieved. This disparity in performance has had serious implications for Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship, where they are now facing stiff competition from McLaren, who currently enjoys a comfortable lead in the standings. Considering alternatives, hiring George Russell, who is a race winner and currently drives for Mercedes, could be a potential option for Red Bull. Russell's contract with Mercedes extends until the end of the 2025 season, which might complicate any potential negotiations. Although Marko has acknowledged Russell's exceptional skills, he believes that pursuing a driver like him is not a likely path for the team at this time. In a recent interview with Formel1.de, which is associated with Autosport, Marko praised Russell, stating that he is just as competitive as Lewis Hamilton in qualifying sessions, if not even faster. However, he emphasized that Russell is aligned with Mercedes-Benz, which means that Red Bull is currently choosing to concentrate on their development programs for young drivers instead. Marko pointed to Franco Colapinto as an example of this young talent. Although Colapinto started his career with limited experience and faced challenges in junior series, Marko noted that he has been delivering incredible performances lately, suggesting that the team is keen to see what other junior drivers can achieve. Additionally, Marko mentioned Yuki Tsunoda, who also remains a talented driver in Red Bull's lineup. Tsunoda has the trust of the team's leadership, but has yet to prove himself sufficiently to earn a permanent spot in the main squad. Marko highlighted the importance of evaluating these young talents, asking how Tsunoda measures up against Liam Lawson, who has recently taken over the seat from veteran Daniel Ricciardo for the final 6 races of the 2024 season, due to Ricciardo's underwhelming performance. Lawson's return to Formula One marks an exciting opportunity for him, and he will be competing alongside Tsunoda. The young driver Isaac Hadjar, only 20 years old, has also been making waves in the Formula 2 Championship, battling for the title. Meanwhile, Arvid Lindblad, another Red Bull junior, finished impressively in 4th place in Formula 3 this year, showcasing the depth of talent within their ranks. Hajar's fellow competitors, Colapinto and Oliver Bearman, have highlighted their potential by impressing in their first Formula One races. Specifically, Colapinto's 8th-place finish driving for Williams in Baku stood out, reinforcing Marco's belief that younger drivers are indeed capable of delivering results at the highest level. Marco expressed optimism about Colapinto, declaring him as someone who definitely holds promise for the future. He praised Colapinto's strong performances in both Baku and Singapore, noting that he's a significant example of what young talent can achieve. He also mentioned Bearman, emphasizing that emerging drivers from junior series like Formula 2 possess the potential to succeed in Formula 1. This shift in perspective is pivotal. Marco acknowledged that, unlike in the past, top teams no longer necessarily need to rely exclusively on drivers with 3 to 5 years of experience to succeed in the sport. Mercedes boss Toto Wolff says the time is right to stop flirting with Max Verstappen now that his squad's Formula 1 driver lineup is sorted. In the wake of Lewis Hamilton announcing his departure from Mercedes at the end of this season, Wolff held numerous discussions with the Verstappen camp earlier this year about a potential switch. Wolff was hoping that the early season turmoil within Red Bull, following the allegations made against team boss Christian Horner, allied to questions over the squad's long-term competitiveness, could tempt Verstappen to make a move. But with the talks going nowhere, and Mercedes increasingly impressed with junior driver Andrea Kimi Antonelli's progress in testing this year, the interest in a Verstappen swoop fell away. Ahead of this year's Italian Grand Prix, Mercedes announced that Antonelli would step up as Hamilton's replacement ahead of what the squad hopes is the start of a long-term relationship. With Antonelli slotted in alongside George Russell, Mercedes has talked of a driver lineup that it expects to have in place for years, which is why Wolff sees no need to be active with Verstappen anymore. Speaking to Autosport about thoughts on his approach to Verstappen's future, Wolff said, "We're sitting back. I think I've expressed it before, and we have a similar view also from Max's side. You've got to put faith in your drivers or in your team. You need to give it the maximum support you can to make it a success. And only if things go really wrong, you will consider other opportunities. For me, it's like flirting outside whilst you're making your relationship work. It doesn't work. I'm not flirting outside. Only if I want to have a change or consider a change, I would seek a conversation. And it is the same on his side. We're pretty aligned in our values on that, I think." While Mercedes sees Antonelli as someone for the very long term, the future of Russell has been the subject of interest, with Red Bull suggesting he could be a candidate for the Milton Keynes squad when his current contract expires at the end of 2025. But Wolff sees Russell as an integral part of Mercedes for years to come, and thinks he will revel in the fresh challenge of going up against the young Antonelli. George has a similar trajectory in terms of karting and junior formula, and George was the first Mercedes junior that joined us, added Wolff. He's still our Mercedes driver. We don't make a big difference between him and Antonelli. Emotionally, we give them the same support. Nothing changes. Every top driver in F1 knows that he needs to compete against their teammate, whether he's young or old. George's teammate has been Lewis Hamilton, the greatest driver of all time, for 3 years. So he will be just fine competing against one of the youngest, who comes in with great expectations. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.